In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you some of the overview elements of our writing curriculum, Institute for Excellence in Writing. This year, it's going to be different than in the past because there's going to be a back and forth relationship between home and school where the students are completing usually days 1 and 2 from the theme book in class, and then 3 and 4 at home with a preview day that will be happening the first homeschool of each week. So we'll be talking about what that looks like specifically, and then I'm going to be showing you some resources that we have here in our Schoology site. So you can see here that I'm in my Unit 1 section. It's dropped down, and then right here is our writing folder, and this is for all grades. Every grade is going to be working with the same theme book, and then we will be using different mentor texts that go along with whatever our history curriculum is for that unit. So you can see here we have writing set up day 1 and day 2. So that is going to happen on that Thursday and Friday of the beginning of school, or if you're joining us in the middle of the school year, you're definitely going to want to be doing those as your first 2 writing days. Basically, these are days for the parent educator. This isn't an actual assignment, but it is preparing your resources, making sure you're clear on the instructions, and also this second writing setup day is super important because on that day you're going to be watching a 2-hour instructional video done by the Institute for Excellence in Writing. And I know that that's a really long period of time to commit to, but it's super crucial that you understand the foundational aspects of this curriculum so that we can partner together in teaching your student writing this year. So please make sure that you take the time to do that, even if it's in a couple of sessions. You're going to find that very beneficial. Next, you see here after those first 2 writing setup days, you see that there is an A track weekly lesson pacing update and a B track weekly lesson pacing update. So this is going to be a running document where I am going to be showing you per week what we're doing in class and what you're doing at home. We'll talk about what it basically is going to look like every week, but that can change just based on whatever happens in class. And that's why I've opted to do it this way with a document that is live and dynamic that I can be changing as we go along. It will allow us much more flexibility, which I believe is going to be in the best interest of our students. Here we have source texts by lesson. And so this is where you will find when you see on your weekly lesson pacing document that we are using a different source text than what is in your theme book. This is where you will go to find that. And then you see here we have differentiated checklists. So you're going to find out as you go through that 2-hour instructional video that the foundation of excellence in writing uses these checklists to guide the learning. So because we have students who are at different places in their IEW writing journeys with Flex, since we're dealing with 3 different grade levels, we have students that are in different places and need a different checklist from the very beginning. So you can see here I use that drop down arrow and I have 3 different folders in here. New to IEW, so that's going to be all of the 3rd graders, and then also anyone who is new to this program this year. You are going to be using these checklists, and you will see that they are listed by lesson. And these are actually almost identical to what is in the theme book. So if you were to use the checklist in the theme book, you would be totally fine. I have just made a couple little very minor tweaks that hopefully make it a little bit clearer. So you can use your best judgment there. Totally fine. Now, if you have a student who was with me last year, or possibly in the future 2 years, then you are going to want to go to this folder. And this is the veteran folder, and this is going to be where I post these checklists, and they are going to be by unit. So 1 veteran checklist per unit, and the reason for that is because it has some extra things on there And so it's okay for it to span an entire unit. And then if your student has been with IEW for a while and maybe they feel that they're up to a challenge even beyond the veteran checklist, this challenge folder is for you. So you can compare those two checklists and you'll see some differences there where there are some added things on this checklist. But it works the same way where it will be updated every unit and there will be added things as we go on throughout the year. This is the veteran checklist for Unit 2, which this doesn't actually mean Unit 2 like our Unit 2 at school. This gets a little bit confusing, so hang with me. This is IEW Unit 2. So there are more units in IEW than there are in our school year. And so you will just follow the theme book and it will be much more clear to you after you've taken a good look at the theme book. But this is for Unit 2 in the theme book. And this is the veteran checklist. So on the new checklists, at the very beginning, there aren't any dress-ups. And then later in our school unit, Unit 1, which is actually Unit 2, by the time we get to the end of our Unit 1 in IEW, they do add the ly adverb on one of the checklists. And then the very final checklist has the ly adverb and the who which clause. So you can see here that I have on the veteran checklist, students are starting right off the bat with both of those because they were taught that and practiced it quite a bit last year, and I feel confident that with a little bit of reminding, they will be fine with starting off right off the bat with that. Now, to pull up the challenge list, it has a couple of extra things on there. I believe for this unit, it has a vivid verb and maybe a power adjective. So that just gives you an idea of the differentiation so that all of our students are challenged. In our writing resources folder, which is within the writing folder in the unit, we have a few different things. One, we have the routine overview, which we're going to take a look at in depth in just a moment. We have some writing video links and downloads, and we also have the student resource notebook. Now you should be receiving this as a hard copy, and that is going to go into your language arts binder, which we'll talk about in a moment. But if for some reason that's misplaced or it rips out or whatever, you have this digitally within your course as well, and this will always be within the unit folder in writing. Regarding that binder, you should have either a 1/2 inch or a 1 inch binder, which was in the supply list. I definitely recommend the 1 inch, and that is going to travel back and forth from home to school each week, and that is where your student is going to keep his or her writing lessons and also reading lessons. So it's going to have several tabs in it, and this writing overview for IEW, in here it talks a little bit about how to set that up. So I'm not going to go over that right now, but I do want to talk about the pacing and what that's going to look like in a week. So most of the new material for each IEW lesson is going to be taught at school. I will generally be doing days 1 and 2, and usually a lesson will last a week. Now, there will be some exceptions to that, but that's going to be our norm. And then you're going to be responsible to preview and review with your child. And what that looks like is that on the first day, which we're going to be calling day 0 just for planning purposes because it isn't in the theme book, mostly that's going to be Mondays for both tracks. You are going to be doing the vocabulary work, which in the theme book is not listed on day 1. So just know that you're going to have to dig for that a little bit, but each week you're going to be completing that vocabulary work and you're going to do any catch-up as necessary. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that later. And then day 1 and day 2, as I said, are going to be completed in class generally. Day 3 is going to be working on continuing to write whatever we started in class, looking at the checklist, making sure that the editing that needs to be done is taken care of. And then day 4 is a continuation of that, polishing work, catching up whatever needs to happen, and following that theme book for specifically what it says for day 3 and 4. Please be sure to check the weekly lesson pacing update, however, every week, because depending on what happens in class, that's going to be my ability to slow down or speed up. More frequently, I'm sure, will be to slow down if something wasn't grasped in class. So make sure you check that because it can change. Now, each Monday, these are the things you're going to be doing. You're going to preview the lesson that's upcoming for the week. So you're together with your student going to look through that, read through it. I will often trade out mentor texts. So what that means is for every lesson, there is usually some sort of a text that is being read and then written about. Now, at the beginning of the year, for the first few lessons, I'm going to leave it as is so that everybody can get comfortable with how this looks. But after that, I'm going to start trading them out for history-related mentor texts. So again, you're going to check your Schoology course just to make sure, and I will always make that as a note on that pacing guide, so you'll know when to go looking for a new mentor text. You're going to review past work on those Mondays, learn vocabulary. As I said, we will not be doing vocabulary in class, although they will be writing with their vocabulary words. So please make sure that you're completing that at home. And then you're going to need to help your student to keep that language arts notebook organized. For some students, this is going to be easier than others. So please make sure that you and your student come up with some sort of a plan and that you are checking that weekly to make sure that your student is following through with keeping those things in chronological order. And then if you choose, you can have a separate polished draft binder so that when those written pieces are finished, they can go into a different binder for safekeeping and just as a keepsake to see how far your student has come. Now, for every second and third homeschool day, like I said, you're going to check that pacing. You are going to be looking at days 3 and 4 in the theme books to see what you're working on. And then mostly you're just going to be available and helping and holding your student accountable to complete those editing checklists correctly. And then when your student is struggling a lot of times they have a hard time figuring out, okay, I need a strong adjective, but where do I put that? That's where the mentoring really comes in, and you're going to be helping with that. You'll notice down here it says Mrs. Ivins will not be able to check this for every student every week. Now that's speaking to the checklist, making sure that it's complete in every draft. So your role in verifying completion of the checklist each week is critical to your students' learning. And I really cannot stress that enough. It is so very, very important. The way that this works is basically it's complete or it's incomplete. So if the checklist is not done correctly, the assignment is not complete. So you need to send your student back with your assistance when needed to figure out where that extra word needs to go, to trade out a word, whatever needs to happen to make it legal, quote unquote, based on that checklist. That's going to primarily be your job as the parent educator. And then I will be verifying completion, checking in with each student throughout the unit, but I will not be checking on every single piece. So I really am going to need your partnership in that. Okay, to close, I would like to just touch on the idea of what happens when my student has a dress up that they don't know where it should go, and I'm not super clear on how to instruct him or her, how to guide him or her with that. So I just want to assure you there are many, many resources for this. That student handbook piece that's going to be given to you in hard copy and also is available in resources has a lot to speak to that. We're back on this checklist, and you'll see here we've got the ly adverb and we've got the who which clause. And at this point you're probably saying, I have no idea what those are. What are you talking about? Or maybe not. That would be great. But I also want to tell you that every unit there will be a video similar to this that will be a unit preview that I'm going to be doing. And it will be located in that writing folder at the top of the folder. It isn't there right now because I haven't created it for Unit 1 yet. But you can go there at the beginning of each unit and it will cover just some basic tips on how to deal with the upcoming main topics that we're going to be learning for that unit. Now, I'm not going to be doing all the work. That's what the theme book is for. That's what the teacher's guide is for. So I'm going to really be relying on my parent educators to dig in and to read for themselves and to learn this program. But I am going to give you some tips that I've learned from teaching this in the classroom of how you can help your student to implement these new ideas in their writing, and hopefully that will be helpful. So I know that this is a very quick overview of a very broad topic, but hopefully this will get you on the right track, and feel free to email me or ask me questions. This is going to be a learning curve, and we're going to learn this together, and it's going to be great. So I'm thrilled to be partnering with you to teach your student writing, and I just know it's going to be a great year. Thank you so much.